And welcome to Capital Talk, a program we hope will have an impact on the future of Kenya. Now more than ever, I'm Jeff Koinange. Now if you've been watching The Bench this week, you know the theme. It's all about doing it yourselves. You don't wait for the serikali to come and give you a helping hand. No handouts. Doing it yourselves, your own way. My guest today, what a story. He knew he had it going on back in high school. He knew he had the touch, magic touch, because, cut a long story short, he made some t-shirts, people bought them, he made some money, but he knew he was good in animation. This is his field. Went to Canada, studied animation, came back. His goal has always been, he says, to be the Disney of Africa. Started his own company about 3 years ago called RECON-Digital. They've done a whole bunch of animation stuff, which I'm sure many of you have seen on our screens. But he says that's barely touching the surface. So much more can be done. The Lion Kings of Africa can be done, and all the Disney movies and Pixar movies going on out there. We have the talent. We just need a little push, and we need the technology. He's done it himself his way, won several awards along the way, and he's going full steam ahead. He's only 33. Sit back. He also has the same name twice. Imagine that. Gatumia Gatumia. You remind me of Miguna.
Well, it gave me less work in kindergarten. I only had to learn one name, and I was good to go.
Speaking of back then,
yeah.
I just realized you went to St. Mary's as well.
Yeah,
my man.
Old Saints boy.
Put it there. And your first, I guess, entrepreneurial leap into the field was during your final year. You're in the rugby team and everything, and you decided to do what?
Well, I was pretty happy about being on the rugby team, and decided that I'd paint myself a T-shirt with the Saints rugby colors and with a player on the back. And people liked it so much they kept asking me, "Hey, why don't you make me one? Make me one." I figured that it was going to be too much work to make a T-shirt for everyone who was asking by myself. So I tried to think, how should I do this? And I, went to industrial area, found a print work, asked them, how much would it cost to do this print, on a larger scale. Went back to the school and I told the administration, hey, people are asking for these shirts. I'd like you to buy them from me, and then people can buy them from the school. There you go.
Wow.
The deal went through. And people bought shirts.
Yeah.
I made a bit of money, and people were feeling good about the Saints rugby team, which was the greatest, in my view, the greatest rugby team that Saints has ever had. The 1998 rugby team. Yeah. We cleaned house,
everything.
All the trophies,
Prescott,
all of them, Nationals, BlackRock, all of them. It was great.
Wow. Yeah. 98, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, that was 14 years after my time, man.
But it's still a great school.
Well done. But obviously you had that talent for drawing, you had that talent for animation, if you will, then.
I've always liked art and design. It's something I've always done.
Yeah.
And I used to watch a lot of cartoons growing up, and I try and copy them, even when I was very young. And I took art and design even at O levels. I'm a bit suspicious about the grade they gave me at O level in art and design.
What was it?
They gave me a C. I couldn't believe it. And this was the funny thing. The two top students throughout were the two more or less bottom students when the KCSE grades came out. So I was a bit suspicious about what criteria do they use to grade art in this country.
You were not happy?
Not at all. I took it again in IB, and this time I got a pretty good grade.
Okay.
So at least that was some
consolation.
Exactly.
Okay, so fast forward, you're in Canada, you're doing animation, and you obviously you were always thinking at the back of your mind, you have to come back home, right? You could have stayed in Canada and done animation there because they have all the facilities, the technology, everything is there. But you wanted to bring it back.
Yeah, I was very clear. I remember writing sort of a semi-mission statement for my life before I went to Canada. And one of the things that was very clear was I need to come back home. That I need to go and learn what is required to do animation, come back home and use that to set up a business here, to tell our stories, grow our businesses. So, even after finishing my training in Canada, my instructor was like, this industry is really big here. Why don't you stay? I'm sure I can get you a job here. You've done well. You look like you have the skills. But I was just very clear. Kenya is where I need to be.
Yeah. And you came, obviously, coming back hasn't been or wasn't that easy, and still isn't that easy, right? I mean, it's been a struggle, especially in your field. It's a struggle.
Yeah, it's usually you do animation, you do cartoons. Are you serious? Is that a job? And you know, they're like, yeah, it is actually a job. Many people are employed in the industry, but it's not. It's still not established here in Kenya or Africa, for that matter. So it is an uphill task to try and set up a good business that is viable long term.
Yeah.
And we've done a lot of work for advertising agencies because that's really where the work was. There was no work in creating new stories or film projects, because those are too huge. But for television advertising, and animation will be between 15-30 seconds. That's doable.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing for many years.
This award you won for the with the ILO, right? I mean, that we don't celebrate people who win awards. I don't know why we don't do it, but we need to. And this was pretty prestigious because this was what your mission statement. Is that what you put out? What was the deal?
Yeah, celebrating people who win awards, like yourself.
No.
Yeah. What happened was last year the Enablis, Chase Bank, and ILO, the International Labour Organization, sponsor a business plan competition. And so last year we submitted our business plan to the competition, and we won in the ICT category, and then we won overall best business plan. So it was actually a business plan award. We were glad to win it.
Yeah.
It came with a bit of prize money, and it also comes with a lot of other benefits, other perks they give you.
Yeah.
So it's been a great thing to have won that award, and we continue to reap the benefits.
And they do that every year.
Yeah, there's another one this year, and I hope that more young Kenyans will write business plans, follow the guidelines, and it helps crystallize your thinking, helps get you focused about what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, of course, it's said that failure to plan is planning to fail.
Right.
So it would be great if more people planned their businesses.
Yeah.
Things may not always work out as you planned, but at least you're working towards something.
Yes. Another thing we were talking about before the show, and something really important and so crucial and key in the future of digital TV, or any TV for that matter, is intellectual property, what you call IP.
Yeah.
Before you explain what that is, do you own the IP for this business plan that you put out there, or once you submit your business plan for the competition, do they own it, or it's still yours?
No, it's our business plan.
Okay.
We own it. They say lock, stock and barrel.
Yeah.
We own every aspect of the business plan.
And they can't take it and use it elsewhere.
Well, once, of course, your ideas are out there, people can use them. And that's okay. I mean, and I think it's healthy to exchange information. Sure. But certain aspects of it are owned by us, so that if anyone decided that they wanted to do one of the, for example, products that we are planning to put out, then of course we would need to take them up on that.
Coming back to intellectual property, that's another thing that we're not very good at owning. Isn't that true?
I suppose it's a fairly new concept in Africa, as far as now the legal side of it. People knew, okay, you wrote that song, it belongs to you, but then it ends up being used all over the place, and the originator of that product or that artwork doesn't benefit from it long term. And that's been a problem. So, but the structures are slowly coming into play. People are slowly beginning to take it more seriously. I mean, even matatus are slowly beginning to pay at least a license fee for the music they're playing, so that it can be distributed. Those who are in the industry should benefit from the use of their products. Yeah. So, protecting and owning and understanding our intellectual property is vital if we hope to, make it in the world of today.
Sure.
Yeah.
For example, if the Lion King, if the IP, if the intellectual property had been all Kenyan, the Mara, the Sambu, where all those scenes and these characters were us, we'd still be making money, right?
We'd still be making money. I mean, they really re-released The Lion King in 3D.
In 3D.
This year, and when they released it, it went to the top of the box office. And already The Lion King had made about $2 billion in revenues for the Disney company. So you can imagine, if we are the ones who had made The Lion King, we'd have brought some money home.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And we're talking about 20 years later, however many years.
Yeah, The Lion King was made, I think, in 94.
There you go.
But 20. It's still making money, and I anticipate it'll continue making money for many years to come. Yeah.
And that's something that these people who tell you that you do cartoons, you know, you could be smiling right back at them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's people will get to know about these industries as they evolve. So, you know, I don't hold it against anyone. I mean, for the most part, we'd all been encouraged to understand that, you know, a career is, you know, law, medicine, finance, journalism, perhaps.
No,
no,
that was
Later.
towards the end.
Yeah. So it's an evolution, and people, you know, they'll understand that the market is beginning to ask for different skill sets, and you know, animation is one of them.
Are people getting into that, Gatumia? Are, you know, young men and women out there? Is the talent there?
I believe the talent is there. I am convinced that so many times people make assumptions about what is a young person capable of, and what is an African young person capable of, for that matter. And I think that it's usually just a function of the inputs, the exposure, your personal drive, and the opportunities that you're given. And so I am convinced that we have the talent here, and it's one of the things that we're doing at RECON-Digital. We are currently working with a group of young people who we are training to become the top animators in Africa. That's the challenge we've set for them, that we are here to be the best. And so we are training them, you know, to the best of our abilities, providing, you know, state-of-the-art and most up-to-date training materials, so that they won't have any excuses when we now begin to put out our product and, you know, try and compete with the big boys, Pixar, Disney, and the like.
Yeah. South Africa seems to have a head start in all this in Africa, if you will, right? I mean, they're the top, if you will, right now, right?
Absolutely.
But we still have the talent, don't we?
Yeah.
If we have what they have.
And we do. One of the things that I continue to challenge, especially the older generation, is to think more in terms of succession. That an older friend of mine who mentors me, you know, is like, we're all stewards, and we need to think in terms of how are we enabling the next person, almost like a relay race. Mm-hmm. How are we handing over? Are we handing over? Are we empowering them? Are we providing the experience, the money, to be able to build businesses beyond ourselves? And that's been a bit of a problem, I think, locally. We don't have that nurturing and empowering older class who are, I mean, sometimes a bit maybe too caught up in themselves, and they need to look around and see what can we do with these young people to establish growth in this country. And I really hope that we will, you know, look at South Africa, because I mean, at the end of it, they are investing in their businesses. We need to be doing the same here, and I see no problem. We'll catch up with them and surpass them.
And that's one of the things that PS, Information Communication Professor Bitangen Demo, who I call the guru, you know, he's the guru guy, man. Gadget guru, I call him, because he's so into this digital content, intellectual property, all this stuff. He's always pushing for this with the Vision 2030. Yeah?
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, sometimes content can be such a broad term, but it is a broad term. When you go on Facebook and you hear of how many million Kenyans are on Facebook, they're enjoying content, whether it's a photo of your holiday. When you go on YouTube and you watch a funny video, that's content. Yeah. When you're at home and you put in a DVD and you watch something, that's content. When you pay your DSTV subscription or you watch K24, that's content. This show is content, and we need to think in terms of how are we leveraging our content, and are we creating enough content to compete reasonably? Because if you look at our TV broadcast schedules, for the most part, it's becoming, you know, a lot of soaps that we buy in. Yep. Almost all the cartoons we buy in. The movies, most of them we buy in. So how much, I mean, are we thinking in terms of what we need to be producing, or are we too content with just buying from people, and, you know, sending money abroad, because that's what it adds up to.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're sending it out, we're not bringing it in. Gatumia, I want to talk more about that after, but that's a really good point. And also, can we make those cartoons, if you will, the animated, can we make them locally and make them viable and get people on them the way we watch Cars 2 or Ben 10 or all these little characters? Can we do that ourselves? And two, the level playing field. Or the playing field, is it more level now? Because we used to say, oh, we don't have this that America has, or India is now the Silicon Valley. Do we have this? Can we compete on a level playing field? Let's take a break. Gatumia, folks, the same name twice. RECON-Digital wants to be the Disney of Africa. And Gatumia says it is possible. We have the technology, we have the folks, the players in place. We just need to take it that next step. Whoa, this week we are celebrating champs and we are doing it ourselves, our way. DIY. The bench is back in a moment. And welcome back to Capital Talk. All this week we're not only celebrating our own very own homegrown talent, we're also showing that we can do it ourselves. DIY, I call it, doing it yourself, ourself, our way. Just like Gatumia Gatumia, folks, he knew he had the talent in animation and he's taken it all the way, folks. His own company going on. He wants to be the Disney of Africa. Imagine that. It's 2 words, sit back. You really believe you can be that, don't you? You can be Disney.
I do.
And you have a team around you that can help push this dream.
We're growing the team around us. I mean, whereas, you know, it is popular to say, you know, I did it, or self-made man. It's not something that I particularly believe is possible. I mean, I am yet to meet someone who could explain to me how they conceived themselves, raised themselves, financed themselves, and grew into, you know, a mogul or a business magnate by themselves. There's always input from other people. You always need help. You always need to learn something. You always need, you know, people around you. Life is a team sport. That's what I like to say.
Yes.
But it also then becomes about taking responsibility and seeing what's my role and then playing it to the best of your ability. I think that's where entrepreneurship comes, and that's perhaps what we're talking about when the moment comes when you know this now I have to do. I can't rely on someone else to do it for me. I can't rely on some help. I need to at least take these steps, and then, you know, by God's grace along the way, people will come on board. You'll get the necessary resources and, you know, build something worthwhile.
But the problem with a lot of Kenyans, Gatumia, is the fact that you get to that stage where you hit that roadblock, that hurdle, and you say, you know what, I'm giving up and I can't go on. What do we do? What do they do then? Especially your generation. People, I guess if they're not asking for handouts, they're saying, oh, you know, this is too tough for me. What do they do? What do you tell them?
Keep going. Even the best of the best hit those walls at different times. And sometimes you almost just have to take a breath, because sometimes if you can't keep walking, at least stand. You know, stand, take a break.
Catch your breath.
But don't give up on the goal, on the vision. You know, don't then also, the other thing that young people sometimes do is that when they get too frustrated, they then turn to a negative expression of that frustration. And that ends up destroying value for themselves and destroying value for others. I mean, if I get to a roadblock and I don't have money and I'm frustrated and no one is buying my product and you know, my loans have been called in and my wife is telling me, where's the food? And I get frustrated and I go drink and I beat someone up and I break someone's shop window, I've destroyed value for so many people along the way, and it doesn't take you any closer to your goal. Same thing, you know, there's been a lot of cry about Mali Yetu and all that sort of thing. It is true that these are shared resources and that, you know, people should have rights to them. And sometimes the frustrating thing is to have rights without the means to enjoy those rights really means nothing. And that sometimes is the frustration for young people. I mean, you're telling us you have the right to live wherever you want, but if you can't afford the rent or you can't afford to buy the land, that right means nothing to me, really. So, but what I'd encourage young people to do is don't give up. If you have to take a break, take a break. Look for help. Look for, you know, advice. Ask people how did you get there? Ask them to help you. Give me some money. But then also present to them a clear vision of where you're heading. You know, back to our business plan. You know, we could ask someone, you know, could you give us some money to put into our business? But if they don't even know what your business is or where you're going, it becomes very hard to have that dialogue. So, you know, to the young people, I'd really say, don't destroy value, because it is a shared resource. And if you destroy it, then you're going to have more problems down the road. But yeah, look for help. Do what you can with what you have. Don't wait for the big, you know, the big time. Sometimes you just have to start small and grow gradually.
Good advice there, Gatumia. Good advice. And your greatest source of inspiration, and you cannot emphasize this enough. You keep talking about this man every time, God rest his soul, Steve Jobs, right? You keep coming back to him as a great source of inspiration. And he went through some pretty adverse challenges, right?
Yeah, I mean, everything from, being kicked out of his own company and then coming back. I mean, he didn't give up, to joining a startup, Pixar, one of the greatest animation studios ever, one of the most profitable. But when they started, he just had to keep pumping money into it, and he was now at a crisis point. So he didn't give up. Of course, he had the battle with cancer, which eventually really caused his health to deteriorate. But he didn't give up. And I mean, even when you think of his upbringing, I believe he was raised by parents who adopted him. So I mean, these people started from different points in life. They didn't start at the top. And many of us should think in terms of that. Think long term. Think we're going to grow something. We're going to build a business. It took him decades to get to where he got. Sometimes you need to be patient, focused, persevere. You get there.
Good man. Jeez, you're only 33. You're speaking like a man twice your age, my brother. Wise young man. Okay. RECON-Digital. Yeah. I was asking you before the break. I was saying, can we get that content we want? Instead of buying soaps from South America, which are translated, 3 times before they're back in English again, or, cheap Filipino stuff, or even Nigerian movies, which we like a lot, but, there's still imports. Can we do it ourselves and do it right?
Absolutely. I think there are people already doing it. I think there's a lot of stuff happening on Riverwood, Kenya's Hollywood, and the quality may still be at a point where it needs to grow and improve, but people are doing stuff. There's some independent filmmakers who are making a mark in our country. The structures need to get in place so that they're able to derive benefit from it. And even as far as how much content we're buying in versus how much we are exporting or not exporting, I think that's something we need to focus and begin to address step by step. We're not saying we don't want to buy anything from South America, or we don't want to buy anything from Europe. But what we're saying is trade. It's business. You don't want to have one-way business or one-way trade. You should also have something to offer. And so that we have an exchange of ideas, of money, of resources, and that's a healthier situation than let's just buy in all our soaps, buy in all our movies, all the DVDs you put your kids, put for your kids to watch, to babysit them are imported, all this kind of thing. So let's think of it in terms of our contribution to the world industries, as opposed to it being such a one-way street, which it often sometimes is.
Absolutely. When you look at content, and I'm sure you do look at quite a bit of content, we're talking things like, let's say, changes or sugar, or the others are, they look like they're pretty good quality.
Absolutely.
Can those ones sell out there? Can they also be used in this trade exchange sort of thing?
They are doing. I mean, some of those that you've mentioned are on international platforms like MultiChoice's DSTV. And I can't speak, definitively about each of them, but what I find is that many of them, those that have graduated to that playing field, we end up losing the IP, such that you've done a deal that ultimately you've sold the IP to, be it MultiChoice or whoever else. And I mean, they're a business, so they're also looking out for their own interests. So I'm just looking forward to a place where we will have more of that IP owned here, and have the means to raise the quality level to a competitive one right here at home.
And also we determine where that story goes, right? If you own the IP, no one else is determining, oh, this character's going to die this time, or this one we're going to introduce a new character. You own that property, right?
Yeah. And you're managing the business that goes, that comes from the IP. Because IP is one thing, but then there's a lot more that you can do with it once it's in existence. I mean, I always like to use cartoons for an example. That, you watch a cartoon, that's one, you'll have bought maybe a cinema ticket or a DVD, but that person who owns the IP will then do a video game with those same characters and make some money off that. The same people will print t-shirts and hats and lunch boxes for the kids, make some money that way. So you need to think of how you can leverage it across a whole bunch of. There might be music in the movie. They'll sell the soundtrack. So, and the musician will make some money also. So there's a whole lot of ways that we are yet to take advantage of when it comes to creating our own IP.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible you mentioned that, because all our kids, everybody wants cars, you know, little McQueen or whatever his name
Or
is.
Ben 10.
Or Ben 10 or all these other characters. I mean, and they go crazy.
Yeah.
You see them being sold in the streets or in the malls or wherever, and the kids go crazy because they've seen this stuff. And the people back there in Hollywood or wherever they're producing it, they're going ka-chink, ka-chink.
Yeah, and even when you think of because there's free-to-air TV and then there's pay TV. A lot of the pay TV is driven, in my opinion, by two things. One is sport, live sport. The other is cartoons, because those are the two demands at homes. One camp is going to be wanting the sports, and the other camp wants the cartoons. That's really what drives pay TV. And you know, all the characters you've spoken of are foreign owned,
Yes.
and we grew up with them, so they become our friends. Really, they become our heroes, and so you identify with them. You know, Spider-Man becomes real to you, and you'll be a fan for the rest of your life. And so we're hoping that we can create some indigenous heroes to, you know, also offer them up as role models and tell our stories.
Absolutely. I mentioned that RECON-Digital wants to be the Disney of Africa. You still determined to do that? You're going to go all the way, all out, no matter what?
By God's grace, I believe we will. We are focused, we're determined, a lot of challenges along the way, but why not? Why not?
Can we have our own heroes and heroines in Africa? Can we use those? Because you use some in your talks, right? You use our own heroes as examples, and we can animate those and, you know, bring them to life, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, it's usually a long journey from concept to product, and sometimes that's maybe where we give up. We shouldn't give up. It's hard for them to make those films. It'll be hard for us, but let's do it. We have great stories that are African. I mean, it's just the medium, how we are consuming the content that has changed. You know, back in the day, it would be, you know, what are we watching in the evening? Or we're going to the campfire to listen to Shosho and Guka tell a story. That was content. We need to bring that into this age. We're no longer doing that, but we're watching stuff on screens. We're watching stuff on the internet. We need to make it so that people will want it in the new ways that they're consuming media and content. And, you know, we have all these great stories, characters, all these stories that were about building, you know, a good moral base in the society, guiding people about, you know, how you should view each other, you know, what's right and wrong. But now just make them entertaining, make them marketable. Why not?
Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Gatumia Gatumia. Good luck, my brother.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you, and all the best to you.
Thank
Good
you,
job.
brother. Good Saints all the way, bro.
Yeah.
Gatumia Gatumia, folks, breaking it down. Whoa, what a smart young man. He knows what he wants, but he also says this entire country and continent can take it to the next level if we own our intellectual property, if we know how to capitalize on that. We'll be laughing all the way to the bank for years and decades to come. It can be done. It's being done out there. Why not us? We've got to celebrate, give credit where it's due. Man with the same name twice, Gatumia Gatumia, definitely setting the trend. You cannot find guests like Gatumia Gatumia anywhere else but right here on the bench, on the award-winning station, soon to be animated, Capital Talk, where we are, as always, even in times of RECON-Digital, we are still all Kenyan.
All the time.
My man. Congrats, bro.
Thank you.
Great. Capital Talk is filmed at Fairmont, the Norfolk.